Hey everybody, it's Bob from TNT and it's TNT Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about wrap up on Safari LJ here behind us. We're about probably 98% finished. Got a few little odds and ends we got to do. Still waiting on a winch. It's going to go down and get dyno tuned here in a week or so. We'll get some miles on it. We tend to put 400 or 500 miles on all of our big projects before we give them back to the customer. That way everything's tuned in, dialed in, ready to go, and they can go enjoy it. So I'm going to turn today over to Kraig because this was Kraig's project. He started it kind of cradle to grave. This Jeep was bone stock when he started on it, so he's done all of the work. So we'll let him tell you about pitfalls and positives and negatives and what he thought of the build and all of that good stuff. So without any further ado, we'll turn it over to Kraig and let him give you a once over.
What's happening?
Hey everybody, if you don't know me, my name's Kraig. Worked for TNT for almost 4 years in April, so we've gone a long way. This was one of the bigger projects this year for me. So we rolled this in about mid-February, and it started as a bone stock LJ, and we ended up pulling the motor out of it for another one of our employees because when Emily blew up the motor, this was the donor. So that really started everything. We already had plans to do an LS swap and all that, and Chris was working on that, but it was just a perfect transition into getting him in the building. So like I said, started in February and now we're sitting in December. So we, it's been a really long project. Of course, there's also been Brian Hamilton's, there's a couple other two-door JKs that I worked on. So it's not exclusively all time towards this, but
She's got some time into her.
lots of time into it. So,
all right, where do you want to start at?
we'll start up front. I mean, we got our TNT Guardian winch bumper with the hoop. Waiting on the winch, like Bob said, we're going to put a Warren unit on there.
Front end is pushed out.
Front end is pushed. We stretched the front end. You can see over here, we do a steering box rotation on it. Rotate the steering box and get the front end stretched out just a little bit more. So we'll go up from there. Use the KC daylighter, just the replacement headlights. The reason I did that, I'm not a huge fan of LEDs, but I also wanted to leave the decision up to Chris too, if later on down the road he's not hundreds of dollars into headlights. So those will do the job. They're really similar to the JK headlights from the factory, but I like that warm halogen light. So then we'll move on to our fenders. These are the Highline 6-inch.
Big boys. Actually got some tire coverage if you can see.
And so we got everything crammed underneath the hood. You do lose a little bit of room, but still is able to fit an LS with two computers, Jeep computer and the GM computer. And then on top of that we have the AEV Highline hood that is no longer in production, but we have a line on a couple of them.
Someone call them a unicorn hood.
Unicorn.
You will not be able to buy one of these. There is limited of them kicking around.
So underneath the front end we have a Dynatrac 44. Both of these axles actually came out of a J8. Don't know how we really got those axles, but it's a 44 front, 60 rear. We'll talk more about that.
Bob pulled the rabbit out of his.
Yeah, Bob came running in one of them one day. We won't ask questions.
Complemented with a PSC system, 6-inch RAM, YJ box. This is usually what we use on these because it's a 4-bolt box.
Anti-rock.
Anti-rock, yeah.
We got the business up here, the whole deal. What are we using for lockers?
We're using ARBs, front and rear.
And gears?
Gears, I don't know who we went through. I think they're Sierras.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And RCVs and from there, we go back to our suspension. So our Y-link up front, and that's our belly skid system and everything. We have the Y-link and the long arm for both the TJ and the LJ. Turns out they drive really great. I mean, this is one hand on the wheel, 80 miles an hour, no problems whatsoever. Trail ready beadlocks, the 17-inch guys.
Some custom color.
Yep, Mary powder coated his wheels to match his cage.
Some sort of midnight blue, I'm not sure, it's really dark. Bob, what's the color on that? Do you know off chance? Just midnight blue?
Yeah, dark.
Dark?
37-inch Maxxis razors. We've been using those for a while. We really enjoy them. They end up working really well. So that kind of brings us back here to our sliders. These are the LJ stretch sliders. So they're longer back here. And they're the Guardians, so they cover your body mounts also. So there's pretty much frame and then slider. You don't have to worry about taking off any of your body mounts.
It's a great system.
Chuck loves it because his were almost non-existent. So then that brings us back to the stretched armor, which matches with all of our suspension system for the TJ opening or TJ exposure back here. So that's stretched another 5 inches in the back, 5.5. Of course, that's all long arm, 4-link, double triangulated. We've talked about that in the past. And then we also cut in coilovers. 10 inches in the rear, they're cantilevered forward, so we get a little bit more. And those cut in really nice. You know, we put the template up, make a Sharpie mark, cut them out, French them in, and you're off to the races. So
There is some thought process that goes into installing that suspension, but it's not undoable by the average person.
Right.
This system does come with pretty good instructions. It's not out of the realm that you can put this together in your garage. There is some cutting and welding, but it's not an impossible system for you to install. It does come complemented with our armor. It works seamless, so you can order that system with the armor that comes with it. No custom cuts, no blanks or anything like that. You can order it straight as a system.
And then, so behind that, you have our gas tank relocation and our bumper replacement, basically. It's a rear frame crossmember, but the factory one's weak, so we chuck that in the garbage and we start over with ours. Doing that moves the tank back, so it looks like a TJ, the exposure on that, because TJ's bolt to the bumper, where the LJ has another crossmember in there to mount the tank on. So, once we have all that pulled back, you know, we can actually stuff a Dana 60 in there. There's plenty of room. So that's a C-clip Dana 60 out of the same J8. That's loaded Sierra gears, ARB locker, and our truss system. So that's the one thing that you have to use when you go to our long arm is our truss system. And that's just, it's super, super simple. You just gotta take your time with it. So it seems overwhelming when you're getting ready to go, but once you actually start getting into it and you can visualize how you need to do your next step, it's pretty easy. So from here we'll kind of move towards our tire carrier. This is a TNT. This is our TNT tire carrier for the TJ, LJ, YJ, CJs.
Now that that's open, you can actually see the max build lights we use in the rear. We also use cyclones in the bumper as backup lights. You can see this guy from space with those lights.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So our swing out tire carrier, pretty simple. All it does is it latches here and it swings out. We put
No rattle.
Yeah, no rattle. It pulls tight. You can actually see, you know, where the bumpers sit. It actually will hold it really tight. So we've actually put up to 42-inch tires on those. Not totally recommended, but you're kind of at your own risk there with 42s anyways. The Great Tops. This is part of the Great Tops top, and that's a basically a big barn door now. So it makes it really nice to be able to get everything in and out, and it's super easy to use, you know. I mean, if you only have one hand available, you can just pull it all up. You don't have to lift up, and you don't have to worry about gas struts and all that.
So when you built this, what was the theme about this? Obviously it's a safari, but was a dog hauler.
Yeah, that's so Chris has King Corso Mastiffs, and the biggest thing for him is he wanted to be able to throw all of his dogs in there and be able to throw some gear in there and go hunting or fishing or, you know, multi utility vehicle.
And Kraig maximized the space on the inside of this thing. If you look, there is nothing in the way. There's no crossbars. He did it as safely and as much exterior or cargo room as he could give them, because they're not small dogs.
No, they're not. So what we did here, we have the Great Tops top. That lifts the top about 6 to 8 inches from like a factory LJ. And then what we did was we put the top on and we built the cage kind of to the top. So that maximizes the headroom that you can have. And it kind of, I mean, we weren't building this cage to go rub up against trees, because really this top is really never going to come off. Now, part of that theme too was the overland kind of ideal, because when Bob does his 4Explore, he wants to be able to take his friends, and friends need to have space for coolers and tents and gear and whatever else we need to haul. So as much space as we could, no back seat, you know. We don't really like back seats in TJs, and
They're hot
LJs
rods.
too, they're hot rods. Couple of things I'll point out here is underneath the seat, underneath the driver's seat, we have a Airby twin air compressor, and that feeds right up underneath the hood to the solenoids for the lockers.
Nice.
The big feature of this top too was the sliding glass windows, and that's so the dogs can poke their heads out and drool all over the side.
Among that, it just gave it a very unique look. I've never seen one in person. I've only seen them on the Great Tops website with this look, and that's really what's gotten this a ton of attention. Other than the detail, is that it looks so different from any other build, even really out right now. The Safari style. Interior lights.
Interior lights. I actually took the speaker pods off of the top of the factory cage, and I just bolted them in right there behind the seats. Fit really nice, still maximizing room. Another thing that Chris really suggested that we do was a flat center console, or as flat as it could be, no storage compartment. He says he doesn't like to collect junk, so there was all that. I handmade that center console, and that guy took a little while also. There's Chris's blue light up cup holders, and we also did the Strike Force Zebra 8 switch panel up there, and I did a custom little enclosure kind of where the factory cigarette lighter and switches are, because we no longer need those. So still got cigarette lighters there, but we have the Strike Force Zebra 8 switch panel in there. It tucks in really tight, but it'll end up being super nice. So it kind of finishes up back here. I did a full custom exhaust. That was one of the probably more challenging things with this. Trying to figure out where we were going to put 2.5 inch exhausts all the way out. So what we ended up doing is we did 2.5 off of the headers and then into a 3 all the way back, and Flowmaster 40 series muffler on it. It's got a great rumble.
It's not too loud, but it sounds good. It sounds healthy. You can definitely tell there's a V8 in there when it's going.
Probably point out real quick, I did I guess a safari rack or a venture rack, whatever you want to do. Towards the end of the build here, we were talking about how we were going to get a rooftop tent on top of the Great Tops top. We didn't really know or want to test the limits of what the top could carry, so we just went ahead and did a safari top on it. I'm really glad that we did that, because it turned out super nice. You know, it gives us a place to mount a couple of work lights over the back. You can throw the top up there, and also we integrated the We integrated the windshield light bar and some ditch lights also off of that. So super happy with the way that turned out. Mary powder coated that black for us. Lifetime LED ditch lights up here. They're crazy bright and they shine back to here. So you can literally look out the window and see what's right next to you from the front of the Jeep. It's really great. So that kind of moves on to what we have underneath the hood.
Completely stopped.
Obviously, this is a 4-liter. Just kidding. So it's a GM 5.7 liter LS1 all aluminum block out of a 98 WS6 Trans Am. So a couple of struggles we had here was Chris wanted to keep air conditioning, and so we went ahead and did that for him. It was pretty tough, but we got it done. But that also meant that it needed a custom intake. So I did a bunch of pie cuts on this and TIG welded it all back together so it would sit in there somewhat nicely. So that was definitely, it was an interesting portion of that build.
It's snug.
It is snug. Mary
It's even-
powder coated that black.
It's even clearanced in a couple areas for things. It kind of snakes through. It's real tight. Adding the AC and a couple other things really took up some real estate underneath here. As you can tell, there's a lot packed in here, and there's even stuff you can't see that's hidden underneath.
Other stuff. Yeah. So the other issue I had was the alternator and power steering. So I went to Goat Built for their bracket. They make a really great bracket. It actually brings the alternator up and then it gives me more clearance underneath because believe it or not, it starts to get tight down there when you start stuffing it. So Goat Built bracket there, and then I had to convert everything to truck accessory drive. So water pump and the balancer are all truck drive now. So the other issue I had with this was, so we got a Novak Conversions LS swap kit, and to maintain factory gauges and some of the other functions, mainly the HVAC system, you have to tap into the Jeep computer and you have to integrate the GM computer. So having two computers in there is really difficult. I really wish I could have gotten rid of the TIPM and all the Jeep stuff, but that's time and money. Like I did on Cowboys, you know, we went full standalone, and that's what we would have had to do here if we did that. And there's still a possibility down the road that we end up having to do that. Mm-hmm. But for now, it runs, it drives. Hopefully, be able to keep cruise control. I'm gonna let Jordan do some tuning on that, and hopefully he can figure out cruise control, because that would just be the icing on the cake. Set the cruise at 80 and drive to Minnesota, Wyoming, wherever you want. Optima battery, everything below the battery, Jeep computer and GM computer, it's just all packed in there.
That's what you can't even see. There's like multiple layers of stuff that when you take it apart, there's a lot underneath this fender, but it's all protected. It's all behind sheet metal. There's nothing you can get at, and mostly waterproof for the most part. So
super stoked with that. Other side of the engine, this is where the ARB comes out from underneath the seat, and that's where you hook up to your lockers, and then his air up system eventually also. And then right next to that we have the Strike 4 Zebra. That's just the other side of it. That's all the relays and fuses. So super nice unit. I really, really like these. Steve's done a really great job with these, and they're easy to work on. You know, I mean, if something goes wrong, it's fuse away, relay, whatever's wrong. So it's all right there. Eight switch system, running ARBs off of that, seat heaters, and all the front lights. So
for the PRPs,
yep, PRP seats in there, suspension seats, adjustable headrest and all that. So Chris has got some back issues. I really hope that those seats can make him comfortable to drive for extremely long distances, because this thing's going to be a driving machine.
Another big thing that was kind of a pain and took a long time but totally was worth it, the blue exterior. It is Linexed. So not only does this look good, this thing is tough as nails.
Yep.
No scratches, no chips. Spray this bad boy off, We even painted the inside of the frame. This thing has been decked out and ready for Minnesota because that's where it's headed. We took every precaution we could really think of.
I mean, as far as the frame off restoration goes, this is the complete package. Like I said, it took forever to do, but when you see what you have and how it all fits together, it really makes me happy. I mean, I'm a wiring nut, and sometimes the wiring's not as clean as I'd like it, but as far as being able to work on it, it's right there. You can plug in OBD scanners for both sides, the Jeep side and the GM, and diagnose whatever you need to do. So, I mean, this is it. This is the final product.
It turned out killer, man. We know you put a ton of time into it. A lot of time, actually. What do you feel was what did you feel was the easiest, and what did you feel you struggled with on this guy? Like, what was the headache on this?
So the biggest headache was probably integrating the Novak conversions, computer and all their wiring into the Jeep side. And that's why I said later on down the road, if Chris decides that we don't need that anymore, we'll just clip all the Jeep stuff out and start over. I can make factory HVAC stuff like that work, but it was just difficult because that's what we had. It's Chris ordered the kit. We thought that was it. Drop it in and ready to go. As I got going through that, it was a little bit more headache. So
Gotcha. Okay.
But
So
as far as it works,
This was officially kind of released this weekend. We did the Christmas caravan for kids. Everybody loved it. There was lots of talk about it, but what's your favorite part of it?
My favorite part is probably just going to be getting behind the wheel. I mean, it's a labor of love, and I've been waiting months to get this thing running and driving. So when I'm able to go hit the key and throw the license plate on it and go cruise down South Greeley Highway and make sure everything's testing out, it's LS powered, so it's a huge bonus. I think LSs and Jeeps they go together so well. The packaging of LSs is great, especially when you want to haul a bunch of stuff, and your Safari Jeep 4-liter is not gonna be what you really want. So
I think we know the struggles.
Question, Kraig. Rough estimate on your man hours. Do you have any?
Let's see, 40 hours a week and probably solid 6 months. So I mean, it's
up there.
Chris Peterson says he loves the interior.
Good. Well, it turned out rad, man. We're really excited, and thank you for giving us a walk around.
Yeah, no problem.
And from today, we actually have another thing going on, correct, Bob?
Yep, go get the boss.
Where's the boss lady at? Where's she at? Let's see where the boss lady is. Ma'am, we need you real quick.
What?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm watching TNT Live.
What happened was I think today is significant. Somebody was born a long time ago. I don't know how many years, but I know
Smartass.
it was a long time ago. Bob, don't burn down the building, please.
What?
Fire extinguishers, ladies and gentlemen. There's a ton of candles in this cake. Somebody had a birthday
So
today.
me and this Jeep share the same.
No, this is from the 2000s.
Come on.
All right. It is indeed the boss
You
lady's
didn't have to
birthday.
put the number on there, Bob.
Oh,
I
no.
think he switched
No.
those around.
We did that.
I think they're switched around.
No, they're the correct way. We looked it up
I
twice.
think they're supposed to be 45.
45?
Yeah,
Man,
you did it backwards.
Man.
That's not how old I am.
I can't do the math, but there's a lot of them. But happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday,
Happy
Mary.
birthday.
Thank you. Oh, and it's all flavors.
Make a good wish. 2020's coming.
Make a good wish. Okay. Got one.
Woohoo!
Good.
Happy birthday.
Thank
birthday.
You. You guys are awesome.
Right on. And I think that's about it for TNT Tuesday. We have anything else?
Tune in next week. We got a great XJ project we're going to go over next week.
The coil sprung linked coil
our
over
rear
hood.
coil conversion
Yeah.
Yep.
for an XJ. We're gonna have one in the shop. Kind of give you guys a heads up on how that works and how that all goes together.
We've got a ton of questions on that. since
Several
it's a system,
asking,
so-
yes.
The TNT Technical Tuesday.
There we go. All right. Let's
See
have
ya.
some cake.
Let's stay warm. All right, see you guys.
Thanks.